9 o'clock, I declare open this public hearing of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Public Works for the inquiry into the Australian Taxation Office proposed fit-out of new leased premises, Festival Tower 2, King William Road, Adelaide. The committee's role as defined in the Public Works Committee Act of 1969 is to consider and report on the purpose and the need for the proposed works, the most effective use of public money that can be made in carrying out the works, and the present and prospective public value of the proposed works. In accordance with the committee's resolutions of the 31st of July 2025, this hearing will be broadcast on the Parliament's website, and the proof and official transcripts of proceedings will be published on the Parliament's website. I also remind members of the media who may be present or listening on the web of the need to fairly and accurately report the proceedings of the committee. I'm Tony Zappia, the chair of the committee. I'm from Adelaide. Andrew?
Andrew Wilcox, member for Dawson and deputy chair.
Josh?
Senator Josh Deliga from Tasmania.
We may have some other members join on video conference from interstate, but we'll wait and see if they're able to get
through. Thanks, Chair. It's Ash Andy Haber, the federal member for Barton. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. It's good to be able to hear you. We weren't sure if we'd be able to connect because there's been problems with the Telstra connections.
That's right, yeah.
Yep. All right. I remind committee members participating via chorus call, and that's you, Ash, to mute your microphone when not speaking, and also to give your name each time you speak to assist with both the Hansard recordings and to assist the witnesses. Participants on chorus call are reminded not to take another call or to put their phones on hold during the teleconference, as this may cause interference with the teleconference. I now welcome witnesses from the public to give evidence. For the Hansard record, would you please state your names and the capacity in which you are appearing before the committee? So who wants to go first?
Yes, I'm Robert Farnan and I'm convener of the Safe Festival Plaza Alliance.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Hayter. I'm a member of the Safe Festival Plaza Alliance.
Thank you.
I'm Craig Pickering, community advocate.
Although the committee doesn't require you to give evidence under oath, I should advise you that these hearings are formal proceedings of the Parliament. Consequently, they warrant the same respect as proceedings of the Parliament itself. Giving false or misleading evidence is a serious matter and may be regarded as contempt of Parliament. I now invite one of you to make some brief opening remarks and then we'll go into a discussion.
Good.
Can I just, by way of clarification, what we were planning is that each of us would speak, and it might be 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
You're welcome to do that. We've got about 30 minutes.
Yes.
The longer you go for, the less time we have to ask questions. Simple as that.
Certainly, no yes, yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, we'll be as brief as possible anyway. So, thank you for the opportunity to present. The Safe Festival Plaza Alliance was formed in 2025 to fight for the open low-rise plaza solution that was promised for Adelaide's key space, the Festival Plaza. The Alliance represents ex-premiers, former attorneys general, national and state parliamentarians, numerous planners and architects, clergy, national award recipients and thousands of citizens. You might ask, why would 3 people travel from Adelaide to make representation about the fitting out of a tax office? We need to briefly create a context while mindful of the objectives of this hearing. Our main concern is simple. While Sydney has spent something like $170 million buying up buildings to demolish to make a town square opposite its town hall, and some time ago Melbourne worked hard to create Federation Square, Adelaide's most important piece of public land, Festival Plaza, the very heart of the city, has effectively been handed to a private developer for a private purpose. That private purpose is the opposite of what the community was promised and what the city needed. Instead of becoming a great public square, the land has been converted into a huge office tower. This is enormous government betrayal. Government has not even made money from the exchange. The terms of the lease are $1 a year for 100 years. The site is of exceptional cultural and civic significance. It sits at the intersection of Adelaide's 2 great civic axes, North Terrace, our premier cultural boulevard, and King William Street, the city's main thoroughfare, surrounded by the globally famous Parliament House, Government House and Festival Theatre, and forming the state's most important civic precinct. The Parliament is national heritage and globally significant as the birthplace of full democracy for women, as well as a cluster of contemporaneous advances such as the secret ballot and one vote, one value. The plaza which adjoins the Parliament was to become a generous, vibrant and democratic public square linking Parliament House, the Festival Theatre, the Riverbank and the CBD. Instead, it is becoming a huge office tower, and the ATO, by contracting in, is an active participant in this process of divesting the city of its public space. To the extent that the rental rates are above comparable rates in the city, it will also be effectively subsidising the build. It is a truly extraordinary role for a public taxpayer-funded organisation such as the ATO, that it might so clearly act against the best interests of the city and its citizens. This 7-page document on probity and process is gleaned largely from the Auditor General's reports, State Auditor General and Ombudsman's reports. Beyond the headline-grabbing $1 a year land deal, there was never open tender with all its built-in guardrailing of cost, relative competence and probity on this $2 billion project. There were inadequate procurement controls, no probity assurance arrangements for procurement, inappropriate private meetings between government agency and developer, systemic failure, these are listed from the Auditor General report, systemic failure to document the rationale for critical decisions. And later, and this one is from the Ombudsman's report, manipulation of the planning codes. And amongst this long list of items, our key issue is that the scale of the building on that space was raised by the current government for an approved 3 stories to a tower of 38 stories. There is little justification for adding a major commercial office building to a city with office vacancy rates of around 16%, particularly in an era when working from home is reducing demand for traditional office space, and this trend is acknowledged in the ATO's own planning. The proposed relocation of 2,000 tax office staff would exemplify this process of hollowing out of the city, leaving behind another major vacant office space whilst reducing activity in the city that supports cafes, retailers and other city businesses. In short, this is not merely an unnecessary building in the wrong place, it has the potential to be actively damaging. This is the tower. In our view, in terms of process, the land has been taken from the public through a process that is both inexplicable and may constitute serious maladministration that needs to be investigated. It is taking away a major civic asset and giving it to a private business for no apparent financial gain and on such ruinous terms that the project needs further subsidy in the form of yearly rental costs, millions more than they need be. The ATO should not become either a participant in or, worse still, a beneficiary of a process that continues to attract such serious and well-documented concern. This is a building that, because of its prominent and central location and size, threatens serious damage culturally, reputationally, spatially and economic to the whole city, and would stand visible everywhere through the city as a stark and permanent symbol of failure of state governance. The ATO cannot become the make or break commercial rescuer of a project through its role as anchor tenant, especially when it is a project with no civic purpose. Good, thank you.
Good. Did you wish to add to that, or Mr. Pickering?
If you don't mind, I'll go next. Craig Pickering, yep. I understand a separate document has been submitted because if the approval of $73.2 million depended upon this vacuous document, then there's no wonder our government is in record debt. This submission by the ATO is full of elements presented as fact when they are clearly untrue and have no supporting evidence. including that exercising their 5-year option, quote, would not represent value for money. Where are the numbers to support this? The numbers for this submission are kept under wraps because even a cursory glance would show them to be false. The ATO states an open market approach was undertaken, and yet it somehow conveniently chose a highly controversial development backed by the state government to become the anchor tenant to allow this project to proceed at massive cost to taxpayers, when no other anchor tenant will come forward. The ATO has presented spurious arguments to appease a state government and risks becoming entangled within a process full of maladministration that has been closely investigated and will be investigated for years to come. Not one point made in this document cannot be achieved by the ATO remaining in its current location and saving what will be close to $100 million when all costs are included. The benefits listed in Section 5, Scope of Works, 5.1 to 5.4, can be achieved by exactly remaining where they are. For example, some of the main arguments listed: to reduce the net lettable area and therefore save money, the fit out is at the end of its useful life, a more modern workplace is needed, easily accessible by public transport, adaptable work environment, technology, secure access, can all be achieved or indeed already exist where they are by negotiating with the current landlord. The ATO's move would also be detrimental to businesses within the CBD, for as they admit the new building is adjacent to the Adelaide CBD. All the arguments associated with being in the centre of the city are therefore baseless. Page 3 of their submission, quote, the new King William's site will reduce lettable area by over 12,000 square metres, resulting in lease and operating savings, can easily be achieved without moving and renegotiating their current lease. Page 4, quote, this proposal maximises value for money as the fit-out will allow for growth while reducing rent costs over the long term. Again, a complete fabrication, patently untrue, and can be achieved without moving at all. There are many more unsubstantiated and plainly false statements in this submission. However, in summary, the lease is up for renewal and a reduction in NLA and a negotiated fit-out upgrade can be achieved within the current premises at a fraction of this proposal cost and save money in the long term. The stated purpose of the ATO is, again to quote their own document, the Australian Government's principal revenue collection agency. How much more revenue would the ATO collect if they spent the $73.2 million on their core purpose instead of moving from one modern building to another? On cursory research, their return on investment of spending $1 to chase tax is $4 to $6 in return. So by diverting $73.2 million to a unnecessary fit out, you can surmise that $73 million plus another $350 million in lost revenue is a huge cost to taxpayers. Finally, Section 7.3, the construction program states that the new fit-out will commence in April 2027 and be completed by October 2027. Since the new premises will not be built and completed until the middle of 2028, this statement is just another example of the massive failings, fabrications, incorrect and biased information in this submission. The only logical decision is to decline this submission. Thank you.
Mr. Pickering, thank you.
Good morning, members. My name is Jeff Hayter. I'm a valuer and land economist by training. I'm a fellow of the Australian Property Institute and I've spent the last 50 years working in the Adelaide commercial property market. Before I get to the ATO deal itself, as Robin and Craig have said, it's important to understand some of the context. This project is arguably the worst urban planning decision I've seen in all my time in the industry. It's been railroaded through by the state government and no one with any knowledge of planning thinks it's a good idea, as reflected in the 70+% no vote recorded when the rezoning that will allow the project to proceed went out for very limited public consultation. The project will suck the life out of an already struggling CBD by decentralising a core land use, removing economic activity from the existing commercial and retail ecosystem that makes the city work and creates its vibrancy. The site is a long way from anywhere in that sense. It will also remove for all time any possibility of Festival Plaza becoming a vibrant community, cultural and social hub, Adelaide's Fed Square if you like, and an economic driver in its own right. It's the Peter principle at work, Peter in this case being our Premier Pete, although I hasten to add that the project is a bipartisan stuff-up, having worked its way through several successive state governments. Along the way, what was going to be no more than 15,000 square metres of office space in a single building when the project was first mooted has been parlayed to around 95,000 square metres, representing what will be a significant slice of Adelaide's CBD office stock. You can't help but think that the state government has been outplayed by its counterpart in this whole scheme, either that or there is some other force at work. In this regard, I note that Mr Malinauskas was first elected as Premier in March 22 and personally signed a 30-year lease extension with Walker Corp and presumably ticked off the shift from a 3-level building to 38 levels in August 2022. So that's a deal that was conceived, negotiated, agreed, documented and executed within 5 months of the election. How, why, on what terms, what was the rush, where and what is the public benefit? Who knows? It's all commercial in confidence. Public land, private dealings. And now we have the Australian Tax Office announced as the anchor tenant and set to take 19,000 square metres overlooking the new Tax Office Plaza, as it will now become known, immediately outside Festival Theatre. The one and only tenant to date without whom the project is not bankable and cannot proceed. Even if it did have full development approval, which it still does not have 12 months after provisional planning consent was granted, noting the incorrect assertion to the contrary in section 5.3 of the ATO submission. So it's the federal government that's now facilitating this whole dodgy deal, and by dodgy I mean in terms of the abuses of process that have been involved and the total lack of transparency about what's really going on in a commercial sense. Worse still, and however the story is spun, this facilitation entails leasing space in the single most expensive office building in Adelaide. Extraordinary extravagance by the ATO in the middle of a cost of living crisis when it should be cutting its cloth to suit the times. No one knows what rental deals have been agreed, but it's understood that Walker Corp has been seeking gross rents in the order of $950 to $1,000 gross per square metre for Tower 2. There are no other commercial office buildings in Adelaide achieving rental rates that come within cooee of this figure. There's one recent deal done apparently at $850 a square metre, but otherwise recently negotiated rents for new and good quality buildings are more in the order of plus or minus $750 per square metre. So it is way above market rent. Commencing gross rents in Tower 1, for example, are understood to have been in the order of $650 per square metre. How can taking up occupancy of space in the most expensive building in Adelaide possibly be a good deal for the taxpayer? The ATO points to savings on its total annual accommodation cost, but these savings arise as a result of the reduction in floor space, not from the building it has chosen. Not only that, but the ATO is going to pick up a $73 million fit-out bill, which is a surprise to all in the industry. The cost equates to almost $4,000 per square metre, as against, I understand, the mandated maximum rate in the ATO's own documents of $2,600 a square metre, and is a figure which the MD of one of Adelaide's leading quantity surveying firms described to me this week as over the top, quote unquote. The ATO needs to come clean on what this cost covers and why it is able to show such extravagance with taxpayers' funds. More to the point, what deal is it cut on the rent against this, and why is it taking on a huge upfront cost when there are other options that effectively allow payment over time? It's understood that Walker Corp will complete an integrated fit-out for the ATO, which should surely save money, but why not have it do this at its own cost so that it can take the depreciation allowances available, even if it means paying a higher initial rent? What exactly is behind this arrangement, and what kind of incentives have been offered to entice the ATO into it? Let me talk about tenant incentives for half a moment. They're a long-established device designed to preserve capital value when the market itself has gone south. The face rent is preserved for purposes of future valuations, but an immediate capital cost to the lessor. Adelaide's commercial vacancy rate is north of 15% and rising, a situation which will be exacerbated by Tower 2 and the ATO's planned move into it. Currently, tenant incentives in Adelaide are between 30 and 40%, able to be taken as either a rent-free period or a contribution to fit-out. In other words, a 10-year lease will attract a rent-free period of between 3 and 4 years, or in many cases a free fit out. And this is how most of the market typically operates. But no, the ATO has chosen to meet the enormous fit out cost itself rather than effectively amortising it over the term of the lease. It must have done a hell of a deal on the rent, except that too good a deal will undercut the on-completion value and be to walkers' distinct commercial disadvantage. So what is really going on here? People active in the industry tell me that it just doesn't make sense. And based on available information, how can we possibly believe that this is the best available option? Why not stay put and negotiate a new 10 or 15-year lease, an option which was not considered, is not one of the three listed in the ATO paper, at what would surely be a very favourable deal with Charter Hall in 26 Franklin Street, probably including a cheaper rental rate and potentially a free fit-out. Given the reduction in floor area, there will be plenty of space available in that building for decanting while a new fit-out is being installed, and there is nothing in the scope of work described at section 5.4 of the ATO submission to this committee, or the design concept described in section 5.5 that could not be delivered via a new fit-out in any one of a number of other buildings. The scope described is par for the course in modern office accommodation. As it is, I'm told that Charter Hall has been completely blindsided by the ATO's decision when, until very recently, it apparently envisaged an entirely different outcome. Here's another question. The current term of the ATO lease in Franklin Street expires on the 30th of October 2027, and there is a 5-year right of renewal. Tower 2 will apparently be completed in late 2028. By the time the fit-out is completed, it may well be into 2029, which begs the question of what arrangements have been made to secure occupancy of the existing premises beyond the current lease expiry date, and at what cost to whom, and whether the ATO will be forced to exercise its 5-year option to extend as part of the price of relocating. My information is that it has not yet cut a deal with Charter Hall in this regard, which leaves it open to the risk of having to exercise its full 5-year option and being exposed to paying rent on 31,000 square metres of vacant space for the period from relocation until lease expiry. At around $20 million per annum for perhaps 3 or 4 years, and noting that there would be a rent review at lease expiry and the start of a new term, is potentially an enormous contingent liability and a huge loose end. Like the rest of this project, the ATO's reasons for its decision to relocate are as clear as mud, even where some limited light has shone. I've read its submission and find it to be so full of a mixture of holes and self-evident truths as to be almost embarrassing. It references Grade A accommodation at section 5.2. This is not Grade A accommodation, it's premium office accommodation. It is touted as the best building in Adelaide, so the tax office is taking itself to the very top in that regard. It describes it as being a new building in central Adelaide. It's not in central Adelaide, it's out on the fringe of Adelaide. It says that section 1.8 works are due for completion in October 2027. As my colleagues have said, that is not going to happen. It describes a lease commencing on the 1st of November 2027 at section 1.4. That is not going to happen. It says at 5.7.2 that the fit-out design will comply with legislative disability requirements. Well, fancy that. It's required to at law, so any building will provide that. It also says at 6.4.2 that there are no negative impacts on the local community, and I would think that is one of the most tone-deaf statements I've read for a very, very long time, and we've been working on this for 12, 15 months. It is very difficult to find anyone in Adelaide who thinks this is a good idea. But to repeat the underlying position, the ATO is proposing to lease space for the next 10 or 20 years in what, on a rate per square metre basis, is the single most expensive building in Adelaide by the length of the strait. There are many questions this committee might like to seek answers to. What role has the state government played in facilitating this deal? How can leasing space in the most expensive building in Adelaide possibly be a good deal for taxpayers? What rental rate has the ATO agreed to pay, both initially and through the term of the lease? Why has it chosen to fund the enormous upfront cost of the fit-out with taxpayer funds? What is included in the fit-out that makes it so enormously expensive? Given that the work is being carried out in 2028, what are the risks that the mooted costs will blow out to 80 million or even more. Has the ATO signed a lease yet, or only an agreement to lease? Did the ATO consider the option of an entirely new long-term lease over its existing premises rather than simply exercising its 5-year option? Has the ATO secured agreement with Charter Hall for continued occupancy of 26 Franklin Street beyond lease expiry, and on what terms? And I can tell you the answer to that is no. What are the financial risks associated with this apparent and extraordinary loose end? Has the ATO considered the adverse effects of its actions on the overall health of the Adelaide market? To conclude, the whole of Tower 2 project is a disgrace, and the ATO's decision to be its inaugural tenant is but the latest episode in a very sorry saga. This committee should reject the CapEx proposal put forward by the ATO, and the federal government should tell the ATO to go and find another solution. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, I thank all three of you for your submissions. Unfortunately, you've just about run out of time for us to ask questions, but I'll try to just cover two very quickly. My first question, with respect to the vacancy rates in Adelaide, which you referred to, going north of 15%, what would be over a period of, say, the last decade, what were the vacancy rates in Adelaide, and how do they compare with other capital cities?
Well, the vacancy rate in Adelaide on the last reports was north of 15%.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what they are in other capital cities, but I do know through my past experience that once the vacancy gets over 12, 13, 14, 15%, it's getting up. I think at the end of the recession we had to have in the late 80s, early 90s, vacancies approached 20%. So it's up at a level which is comparable to where we were at in the early 1990s, when the whole market had fallen apart, basically.
Given your years of experience, what would be the average vacancy rates in Adelaide in previous years? What do we know?
A healthy market is under 10%,
Under 10%.
and that's where it's been. You know, it's cyclical like everything, but
Okay.
under 10%.
And I think it was Mr. Pickering who said that something along the lines that a better deal could have been done with Charter Hall. What insight do you have into the offer made by Charter Hall? I mean, you're making a statement. What are you basing that on?
I'm basing it on the fact that where they're proposing to move into, Tower 2, is the most expensive.
Yeah, but how do you know that?
accommodation.
What I'm trying to say is,
Industry information. People, the leases, the cost of the lease is general knowledge in the industry, and what they're paying at the moment is I don't know exactly what they're paying, but I know in the region, and there's a $200 difference per square metre, and I think in the Public Works Committee's own procedure manual, you're looking at an expense of around $2,600 as a top end, and this expense is going to be around $4,000 per square metre from the calculations that we've done. So it's general knowledge within the industry. It's that this is the most expensive building. It's also general knowledge, and from my own past experience, to negotiate a lease. If you're negotiating another 10-year lease, you can easily get partially a free fit out, or as Jeff mentioned, free upfront lease periods. So it has to be a far cheaper option, and it doesn't involve spending $73 million to fit out a new building. It may involve some small cost to help the refit.
again, you're making statements, but it's. I want very clear evidence to confirm what you're saying, and so.
Well, I'd like to clear evidence on what the ATO is saying, and we don't have any. Yeah. So it's the same. What the ATO is saying in their submission is complete fabrication, and is just statements without facts behind it. We have a gentleman here with 50 years experience who's saying,
and we've heard him,
the
so
facts.
That's fine.
And I go by those facts, and I also know from personal business experience that this deal is financially makes no sense.
Again, that's a statement without fact. Andrew, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Farnan, the Auditor General report that you had there before, would you be interested in submitting that to the committee?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly, yes.
Thank you. You made a statement earlier, $1 a year for 100 years.
Yes,
Are you 100% sure that that figure is correct?
absolutely.
Would you be able to give us some information to back that up, please?
Certainly, I can supply with the lease,
Appreciate that. Thank
copies of
you.
the lease, yes.
Did I hear you say that there was no open tender process associated with this in earlier evidence?
Yes, that's in the Auditor General's report.
That's in the Auditor
That's
General?
correct, yes.
Thank you very
yes.
much. Mr. Pickering, you identified there would be a saving of $100 million if the ATO stayed put. Could you provide the information to the committee for our consideration on that figure, please?
Sure. That is an
Maybe if you
estimated.
take it on notice, because
No, it's an
we're out of
estimated 100
time.
million, 73.2 million for the fit out. You've got lots of staff productivity for at least 3 months, if not more. You've got the cost of moving. There are a whole lot of factors to be considered in there.
I
that add up.
don't see any evidence that you've presented about loss of staff productivity. Like, I'll defend the ATO and their workers. That completely seems to be completely
No,
without fact.
disagree. If you're moving buildings, you have to allow for staff to be moved, to have their positions.
Crying out loud.
I've been involved in moves and renovations in office buildings and in businesses, and it is a reduction in staff productivity. That is a fact.
But
Happy to hand you through the chair to.
But that could also occur in the refurbishment of the current facilities. There would have to be some dislocation if that happened.
If you're reducing your footprint in an existing building, it's far easier than saying to staff,
I'm not
you've got to
disputing
pack
whether
up
it's easier or
and
harder.
move.
Yeah.
That's a far bigger cost.
Yeah.
And if you can't recognise that, then you haven't worked in a business.
Yeah. Andrew, sorry, did you have any?
I'm heard more than enough, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Josh?
Thank you. I'm just going to make a quick statement, and I think it's just out of the disrespect shown to this committee. The chair asked for a brief opening statement. You've taken up 28 minutes of the committee's time with what seems to be partisan political statements, making assertions that have not been backed up, and seem to be, in what I've seen, completely ill-informed. So thank you for appearing today.
Excuse me, we were told that we had 30 minutes to speak. We were not told that we
30
had
minutes to
30 minutes
participate
for
in the committee process.
That's not
the
what
chair
we were
did
told.
ask you to make a brief opening statement. You've had an opportunity to provide opening statements,
Yeah.
but you also haven't given us an opportunity to challenge some of the assertions that you've made. So
Well, that wasn't
I
mentioned.
don't require another
That
response.
wasn't
I don't
mentioned
require-
to us until we entered
I
the
don't
room.
require a response. Thanks, Mr. Pickering.
Look, separate to that, our role is to try and do the best for the community and the taxpayers, and that's what we're going to try and do.
Yes.
And we'll be just as strident in our questioning of the ATO as we perhaps are with you. Just to put it on the record, my understanding is that construction of the building has commenced.
Yes.
And Mr. Hayter, you're fairly confident that completion will not occur by the projected time?
I'm very confident.
Can I ask why?
Well, firstly, they don't yet have full development approval, and one of the members of our alliance is a former commissioner of the ERD court in Adelaide, and he checked the planning portal yesterday.
Yep.
I can confirm, so they need planning rules consent and they need building rules consent, and at this stage they don't have either. What it appears is happening is the project is being approved, has been broken down into something like 20 stages, and they're having this stage approved, then that stage approved, and then that stage approved. So they're building bits as they go, but they don't have that. And then, I mean, it takes 12 months to build a house. And they're only just coming out of the ground at the moment, and October 27 is not very far away, and on top of constructing the building, it then has to be fitted out. So they are two separate processes, and the fit out can't start until the building is very close to complete, because the carpet needs to go down.
I get all that. I'm just
So I'm very confident that the building will not be finished by October 2027.
Do you have concerns about not only the timing, but you were talking about the stages of approval process that have to go, the developer has to go through? Are you suggesting that there might not be an approval for the full 33 stories or whatever?
There is not yet full development approval for this building.
Yeah,
It's a process that they are working through, but they do not yet have full development approval for the building. They have approval for some of the early substructure works, and I don't know what level they've got approved to, but to repeat, they do not have...
Okay, maybe I'll rephrase my question. Do you believe that those approvals will not be forthcoming?
Oh, I suspect that they'll be forthcoming in time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, in other words, there's no reason why they won't be able to complete the project as proposed.
Well, I don't think...
Albeit that it might be beyond the completion date.
Well, it's a very difficult thing when you don't have approval. You can't build beyond where your approval is at, and it is a very large building, and we're now in July of 26, so it's only 15 months
Yep.
until the mooted completion date, and I don't believe it's going to happen. That's from my discussion with people in the industry. It's particularly when the ATO can't move in until it's fitted out.
No, again, we understand that. Just for your information, the committee has received a letter from the Minister's office refuting some of the things that have been said today. It's on the records. The letter is a public document, so you'll be able to read it yourself.
Well, I repeat, we have looked in the SA Plan portal yesterday, and as of yesterday, it did not have development approval. And there are still reserved matters
Sure,
for the original.
The letter
plan.
doesn't talk about the approvals, but the letter doesn't refer to the approvals. The letter refers to other matters that have been raised.
Right, well, I'm not having seen the letter.
No, I
I'm
appreciate
at a
that.
disadvantage there, so.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just advising you. The letter has come in, and you're welcome to have a look at it.
All right. A question of clarification, will we have opportunity to respond to whatever it is that is in that letter?
You can always write to the committee, and we can take stuff as correspondence or whatever. Today's hearing is exactly that, just a hearing.
All right.
Yeah.
Because to be clear, what I'm saying to you is not opinion. It's fact about what's going on. You know, it's based on long experience.
Okay. I'm sorry, but we have run out of time. Well over time, and we've been pretty generous with our time with you today. Thank you for your participation in today's hearing. If the committee has any other questions, we'll put them to you in writing, and you will be sent a copy of the transcript of your evidence to the committee. If you feel you need to make any transcription corrections, please contact the Secretariat.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's all right. I now welcome representatives from the Australian Taxation Office to give evidence. For the Hansard record, would you each please state your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the committee?
Certainly, Chair. I'm Liam Page, Assistant Commissioner, Property Services.
Good morning, Chair. Assistant Commissioner Adrian Josefsky, responsible for property and leasing at the ATO.
Good morning, everyone. Tanner Saban, Senior Project Manager from Pushman and Wakefield.
Although the committee doesn't require you to give evidence under oath, I should advise you that these hearings are formal proceedings of the Parliament. Consequently, they warrant the same respect as proceedings of the Parliament itself. Giving false or misleading evidence is a serious matter and may be regarded as a contempt of Parliament. I now invite you to make a brief opening statement before we proceed to discussions. We've got about half an hour, so As I said to the previous witnesses, the briefer your statement is, the more time it is for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands upon which we work. I live and work here in Naarm, Melbourne, on the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and where we meet today. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are here to talk about our Adelaide site, which sits on the lands of the Kaurna people. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. I also want to acknowledge the important role that this committee plays in ensuring transparency and oversight of public works, and I thank you for your time today. The Australian Taxation Office proposes to fit out approximately 19,000 square metres of net lettable area across 11 floors, plus a secure ATO lobby in Festival Tower 2, King William Road, Adelaide, referred to as the King William site. This will support approximately 2,300 staff in South Australia. We recognise the public interest in the Festival Plaza precinct development and acknowledge the concerns expressed by others today. We note the decision in relation to the development of the precinct rests with the South Australian Government. With the current Adelaide lease expiring in November 2027, an open market approach was undertaken to identify suitable office accommodation in central Adelaide. The process follows the Commonwealth Property Management Framework and Commonwealth procurement rules. The process determined that entering into a 10-year lease at the King William site represents the best value for money outcome for the Commonwealth, necessitating the proposed fit-out of the new premises prior to staff occupation, and this fit-out is what we are here to discuss today. Works are scheduled from April to October 2027. We are, though, currently working through changes to project timeframes and can provide further detail about that in camera. The proposed fit-out will enable the ATO to maintain operations in Adelaide and deliver fit-for-purpose, flexible workspaces that support current and future workforce needs. It will also reduce the ATO's overall accommodation footprint in Adelaide by 40%, delivering significant long-term savings. The fit-out has been designed to support contemporary ways of working, including unallocated workspaces, enhanced collaboration areas and improved use of technology, enabling the ATO to meet its operational requirements. The total forecast cost of the project is $73.4 million, excluding GST, covering all capital construction works, design, project management, IT, security and relocation costs. The project will be funded from the ATO's existing budget. The project will comply with all relevant Commonwealth, state and local legislation and align with the Net Zero and Government Operations Strategy. It will incorporate sustainable materials and energy-efficient systems and be designed to be accessible to people with diverse needs. In response to previous committee feedback, the ATO has strengthened its consultation and change management processes for the current and upcoming projects. Staff engagement occurs from design through delivery, through to post-documentation and supports an effortless transition. Early engagement has already commenced with staff and business line representatives through a site working group and key external stakeholders. Further staff consultation, including design workshops and ongoing communications and opportunities for feedback, will continue as we finalise the design. The project represents a cost-effective solution that supports the ATO's long-term accommodation strategy and delivers value for money for the Commonwealth. Thank you. We look forward to assisting the committee with its inquiry.
Thank you. I'm going to kick off with the question about the staff. Staff have been consulted, I understand, as part of the consultation process. What was the staff response to the relocation? And I simply want either the majority in favour or against it. I don't want any...
I can answer anecdotally. I think, Chair, certainly we've heard positive comment from people who've provided feedback to us.
Okay. And with respect to you talked about the timeframes. You're reviewing the timeframes because I think you said something about expected completion of 27th of October October 2027. Is it your understanding that the building will not be completed by that date?
I think, Chair, we are working through some changes there, so we can speak to that in more detail. I think some of that is still being locked down and may be something we need to speak to in camera. Okay.
The current lease period is for 10 years plus 3 plus 3, whereas in the building where you currently are, my understanding is that you had a 15-year lease plus 5-year option to extend?
I believe that is correct. Mr. Jezewski can speak to that.
Yeah. Which is 20 years. Why did you go for a shorter period?
our recent experience and with the evolving needs of our staff, we wanted to have more flexibility, and that's something we're seeing consistently, to have an initial period for the 10 years and then the 3-year options at the end give us that flexibility in understanding that the needs of the workforce and our business requirements change so quickly, as is in the case with Adelaide. We do have quite a significant reduction in our footprint, partially driven by the changed work settings at the ATO, and we recognise that the shorter lease time frame provides us more flexibility if we have significant changes we need to consider.
And the current staff numbers in Adelaide are what? How many?
Approximately 2,300.
And is it your expectation that that will remain the case for the years ahead?
I think that's right, Chair. We've actually seen some strong growth in Adelaide. It's a strong market for us, but we don't anticipate significant change around those numbers at all.
And my last question before I hand over to my colleagues, when did the process of looking for the next period, given that the expiration of the lease at Franklin Street, I think, is 2027, when did you commence that process?
I believe Mr. Jezewski can confirm, but I understand it was 2022.
So yeah, in 2022, 4 years out, we commence the process of considering what our options are.
Okay. I mean, I'll have further questions if time permits, but I will go to the Deputy Chair. Andrew?
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, gentlemen. So do you have all the local, state and federal government approvals for this project?
Mr. Jezewski can speak to the checks we undertake through the leasing process.
Yes, that's correct. So through the leasing process, before we get to the point of through the actual competitive procurement process, before we sign an AFL, we have assured all relevant checks that are required to proceed, and that ranges. They obviously include and focus on, title searches, land ownership, all relevant development approvals that are required for us to proceed have been confirmed.
So for the record, you have all local, state and federal government approvals for this
correct.
project to proceed. Thank you very much. Community consultation. Did you undertake any community consultation for this project?
Not as part of our approach to market.
You didn't do any? Okay, thank you. So this committee's role is to get value for money for our taxpayers. Now, having a look through the document, there's a very good presentation, but this is the most premium fit out that I've ever seen. Can you tell me can you explain that? Why is the tax office going to such a premium level, such a high level of fit out when it's a government department?
Mr. Wilcox, I would say that when we engage partners like architects to deliver an outcome for us, we define our requirements. We have not asked in this case for anything over and above anything that we have delivered elsewhere in other workspaces. I think the architect has done a very good job of developing a concept that...
no doubt the architect's done a fantastic job. Just someone's got to pay for it. I'm just trying to work out.
And if I can speak to the costs, perhaps, sure. Mr. Wilcox, I would say that the cost of this proposed fit out is similar to costs of other fit outs that have been delivered for the ATO recently, and we can speak to some of that comparison perhaps more in camera, but also Mr. Saban, as our project manager, has industry experience that he can speak to compare to other, the cost of other fit-outs that have been delivered in the market as well, that would put them in, I would think, the mid-range.
So for Hansard, you would suggest that this fit-out is mid-range? Is that what I'm...
Perhaps Mr. Saban can speak to where it sits in terms of cost for construction.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Page. In terms of a general output, it does sit within the mid-range.
Right.
Yep. Typically, we see both private and public sector fit-out costs within a range, and we understand that this would sit within that range.
Thank you. Customers, there's a fairly elaborate area where you walk in, how many customers would you typically see on a day?
Generally speaking, Mr. Wilcox, we don't have clients attend the office except perhaps for interviews and the like. That entrance is not a public entrance as such. It's simply the secure entrance into the tenancy, the secure tenancy. There is a small amount of seating there for people who might be waiting for others. There is an interview room on the plan in that foyer as well for those occasions where we might be undertaking an interview with a client, but we don't have a shop front as such.
Okay, so traditionally you wouldn't have any member of the Australian public come to your...
No, we don't have shop fronts to provide service to members of the public.
Okay, so in the plan there's a circa conference room style thing for about 200 people?
That's right.
If you don't have any of the public in, what would that be used for?
That might be various events, corporate events, the launch of corporate plans. It would be bringing people together for planning days. It would be a range of events that occur during the course of the work that our people undertake.
So corporate events bringing outside people or corporate events within
we may bring
ATO system?
We may bring externals in to engage with us. Generally, an example might be the Commissioner visiting Adelaide and bringing people together to speak to them about the organisation, its intent, set direction and focus, that kind of thing.
And do you have any numbers over the period of the lease where you think, again, going back to the value for money role, do you have any numbers that you could present to the committee that show the advantage from moving from this existing location into this new location, so we could...
Numbers in what context?
Look, overall value.
We could certainly take on notice to come back with some headline numbers around how much we pay for the lease currently, like from a lease perspective, and how that will compare with the new lease. We can certainly take that on notice.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. Headline numbers are good, but when we've got to make a decision, the more accurate we make them, the better for us. Would be good. Thank you, Chair. I'll have more with you after everyone goes through.
Josh,
thank you for your time.
Thank you. What's been the feedback from the staff unions on the proposed move and fit out?
We haven't had direct feedback from unions at this stage. We are engaging with them. We're planning to engage more. We've undertaken a range of activities to consult with staff more broadly at this stage, site working group members and the like, HSRs, members of the Emergency Control Organisation, wardens and the like. We have more of those planned and amongst those other unions.
And on the working group, is there union representatives on the...
not on that site working group, but we engage directly with them.
Okay. I also just wanted to follow up from some earlier evidence that we heard. There was a claim made that there would be a 3-month productivity loss as a result of the move to the new premises. Can I?
Yes, Senator. I don't agree with that assertion. We recently moved from our 2 old offices in Canberra into a new fit-out in Barton. Staff moved over 2 weeks. They in 2 groups out of the 2 other buildings. They finished work on Friday and started on Monday without disruption. It was smooth. We do a lot of work to manage the change process and ensure that people are supported, prepared beforehand, know what to expect, and then are supported through the move.
Thank you, and absolutely we support the hard work that the ATO and your staff do, and absolutely it's great to have that on the record. When it comes to the role in delivering the works, how much work has the ATO done in comparison to the amount of the broad use of external design and construction services?
Certainly. We do play a significant role in preparing to first engage market and then develop the concept and ensure that we understand the requirements of our workforce. in particular engaging with site working group business representatives to develop an understanding of what's required in the space. We do, of course, engage through a project management provider, experts who bring technical expertise to the process, architects, quantity surveyors and the like. These are skills that we don't possess in the ATO and that we need to procure. But we do play a significant role in managing the project overall, establishing our requirements, managing change throughout, and so on.
And how will you ensure and manage any delays to the construction on the base building don't affect the delivery of the proposed works?
Perhaps Mr. Saban could speak to how we manage those sorts of risks.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Page. Senator, if I can just confirm your question, it's about managing program risk, is that?
Well, exactly, yes.
Yep. So there are specific milestones within the AFL which we need to adhere to.
Yep.
We commenced an early pre-engagement process with our external consultants, that being services engineers and architects, and in collaboration with the ATO with regards to determining a needs analysis. So a lot of that upfront briefing was done early on to help inform an overall needs analysis and a preliminary design, which you've already seen. So we are well within program to deliver within the milestones in the AFL in collaboration with the developer in providing that information progressively throughout the design process.
And with the developer, if there were delays to the base construction of the building, how, given workforce supply shortages as well, have you factored that in?
We would take that into consideration if and when it came, and it'll be a collaborative process with all parties.
All right, thanks, Chair.
Can I just go back to the issue of the staff? I thought you said to me that when I asked a question about staff consultation that there was no problems with the staff, but you just told Senator Deliga that you didn't include a union rep and you haven't had discussions with some of the staff about the relocation. Can I just clarify, what have you done?
Chair, we've established a site working group that has staff representatives across all of the business areas that are present within Adelaide. We've brought them together quite early in this process to talk to them about what
I assume that they're the senior managers in the department, are they?
They'd be a mix of staff, Chair, probably most commonly EL1, EL2, but there would be other lower level members as well.
So why did you not include the union rep?
Well, that group is focused on the requirements of, if you like, each business area. It's it's to understand the function that each performs, the facilities that they would require. We will be certainly engaging with unions, though, as part of working through detailed design and getting their feedback.
Yeah, but given that you've already got designs, you've already decided what you're going to do, what's the purpose of that?
Well, the design so far is concept, which allows us to understand broadly what we believe we need within the workspace, that takes into account that early input from the site working group. That will be refined, though, over time through detailed design. So it will change before we deliver it. But we do this so that we know the cost and that we can then start to engage with people more broadly throughout the rest of the process to ensure that we refine it and get it right.
Okay. Getting back to the completion date of the building, you were here when the Save the Festival Plaza group presented earlier on, and you heard what they had to say, and they raised some very serious matters. In particular, I'll give you the opportunity, firstly, if you want to respond to anything that they raised, but secondly, with respect to the completion date, if the building is not completed by the 27th by October 2027, what is your plan for the interim period?
Certainly. And can I first say I won't respond directly to other claims made. I do respect the passion that these individuals have demonstrated towards their city, and thank them for giving evidence as well. But Mr. Jezewski can perhaps speak to contingencies in the like, in the event that a delay happens.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. Certainly, we are very well aware of the fact that a project of this size and where we're at is something we're monitoring very closely, and we're in fact having conversations both with our existing landlord as well as Walker around what contingencies may need to be put in place. I think as Mr. Page mentioned, I'm happy to discuss that in greater detail with you in camera, but we are certainly actively looking at what contingencies need to be put in place if the fit out cannot, and if we cannot move in based on the current milestones and time frame.
Okay, so, all right, and I'm sure that we will raise these matters in the in-camera hearing. Again, and maybe these are questions really that need to wait for the in-camera hearing. You said you commenced the process in 2022. Can you advise exactly when you called for expressions of interest?
Yes, certainly, Chair. So we went out, we commenced the process in 2022 in terms of planning and working with Department of Finance to consider the options. But in terms of when we made the decision and actually approached the market, that was in August 2024. So that is when we actually commenced the process and did a request for proposal and released a request to the market for suitable office accommodation that met our needs in Adelaide.
August 2024.
That's correct.
And that was what, a 6-week process or something like that?
I believe we were in market for a couple of months. So it was open for a couple of months for tenderers to submit.
Okay. And how many expressions of interest did you receive?
So I can go through the detail in greater detail in camera, but I think
I don't want to know the names. I just want to know how many.
We had 3.
You had 3. Formal expressions of interest from developers?
That's correct.
Okay.
From the market, that's correct.
All right. I asked that question because we were also told that vacancy rates in Adelaide are high, or higher than they have traditionally been. And so therefore I'm just interested in what sort of response you got all right. With respect to the, and I know this is an in-camera question, but I don't want details, but I think the public have a right to know the answer to this. Is the existing building, will the landlord to the existing building prepared to reduce the lease to cover the reduction in floor space from 30,000+ to 19,000 square metres?
Chair, I'm certainly happy to discuss that in greater detail in camera. What I can say is that under the existing lease, we have an option to extend, and that option means that we have to utilise the full space we currently have. There's no that's basically the commercial terms that we have available under the current lease, and that is, if we were to exercise it, we have to be prepared to utilise the full space that is within that agreement.
Okay. Andrew, did you have any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. Do you think negotiating could be would it be an option though? Like, I know you said that that's a lease, but I'm involved in quite a few leases, but you know, different terms, different things change. You can negotiate, and there can be more terms. You can have a smaller footprint, or
so we can certainly, when considering an option, we can put things on the table, but that extension option is within the bounds of the original lease agreement. That is quite specific on what we really, I suppose, commercially don't have terms to sort of justify negotiating that. We can certainly always ask the question, but certainly it is not really something that I think we would have a strong position on, and the actual right option for us is, if we are looking to negotiate and make such a significant change in our footprint and our requirements, is to actually approach the market and do an open approach, if that is the case.
appreciate that, and we'll look at that more in camera. But I did want to try, it is for the public. We always try to be as transparent as what we possibly can with So just changing gears here, connectivity. You're going to have a significant amount of staff at this building. I think there's a lot of public space around there. Is this building got enough parking, or is there enough public transport to service it or whatever? Like, I wouldn't like to see this amount of infiltration into a public space and then wreck people's lifestyles, for want of a better way of putting it.
Certainly. I would say, firstly, the proposed new fit-out is 1 kilometre from the existing building. I expect people will be able to use the same transport routes largely that they currently do. There are, we understand, 1,500 paid public parking bays in Festival Plaza. Public parking costs are comparable to the current site. There are also will be end-of-trip facilities in the building for people who want to, for example, use a bicycle to get to work. We expect it to be to provide useful amenity to our staff.
Thank you. So, sorry, Mr. Page, you said that car parks within the plaza. I would like to know how many car parks are in this big building.
I would have to take that on notice. I don't know if Mr. Sabam knows whether that's specifically within this building or the precinct.
We'll have to take it on notice if you don't mind.
We can find out for you.
Thank you very much. I'm right for the minute, Chair. Thank you.
Can I just pursue that issue of the car parking? The 1,500 car parking spaces in Festival Plaza are already there as part of the buildings and that are currently in existence. Just to confirm, Mr. Wilcox's question was how many additional car parking spaces is this new building providing, and is that the information you're going to give back to us?
We will attempt to answer exactly that question, Chair.
How many, and I know it's not really your responsibility, but how many people are expected to be working in this building if it's completed to the height that is proposed?
I couldn't estimate, I don't believe. I could take a guess, but I really wouldn't want to put something on the record that was significantly wrong.
I think you know where I'm going with this. I'm trying to ascertain how many additional car parking spaces this new building will generate in addition to the 1,500.
Yeah, I understand, but we will take that on notice and try to answer that for you.
Okay.
So through the Chair, you'll be able to give us the amount of workers in there as well, because it'll be circa 2,000, won't it?
Well, so within our tenancy, I can say the 2,300 people will, of course, be attached to the building. They won't all be in at the same time. We would expect a ratio of about, we usually factor it on about a 0.6. So, sorry, 6 desks per 10 people, and therefore we'd plan to have approximately 60% of our people in at any given time, roughly speaking. The building itself, for the remainder, I could only guess.
And if I can just go back to Mr. Suzuki, the process of calling for expressions of interest was conducted just after August 2024. How was it done? Was it an advertisement in the papers?
So it's an open approach to market. So we publish it on AusTender, and it's available for any tenderer to put forward a request. Yeah, to put forward accommodation solutions. Yeah.
So it's an open tender that anybody else could have
Absolutely
put in for. Okay. Josh, did you have anything?
I just wanted to follow up on my earlier question and your subsequent question, Chair, about the engagement with the unions on the matter. And I just don't understand. Like, I've just been having a look at your enterprise agreement, and it says here that the ATO recognises that employees in the relevant unions should have a genuine opportunity to influence decisions and consultation with employees and relevant unions on workplace matters that significantly affect or materially affect them is sound management practice, and the benefits of employee and union involvement and the right of employees to be represented by their union. I don't know how in any way, shape or form having a workplace consultative group that doesn't include a rep from the CPSU, I don't see how that is sound practice.
Well, Senator, I think it simply goes to different mechanisms or different forums within which we will engage with different audiences. We absolutely recognise the role of the unions and the important role they play in representing their members and our staff. The role of the site working group that I mentioned before is really about establishing business requirements through people on site.
But I still don't understand how you can get that from the union. And is it normal practice in other fit outs that the unions have not had a spot on the consultative groups?
On the site working group, that is normal for our process. We are always open to input from the unions, of course, and should their members provide them feedback, they are always able to approach us, to engage with us on those whatever matters might be raised.
So I might just remind, because I think that there is, the government in 2022 published a circular through the APSC with key expectations that highlighted the government's position that agencies will engage with unions on such matters. And I would draw you back to that, and maybe next time we have a talk to see how you've changed that position. But it clearly gives the expectation that you need to include unions in these decision-making processes, and that this it is a key part of having a successful workplace by engaging with the unions on any of these matters that affect workers.
Yeah, I agree entirely, Senator. So acknowledge that, and I'm happy to talk to you further about how we can.
Thank you. That would be great. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we've pretty much run out of time. We will go into an in-camera hearing in just a moment, and we will certainly pursue the issues of costs and value for money based on the information that you're able to provide us. I thank you for your participation in the public hearing today. If the committee has any further questions, they'll be put to you in writing, and we have asked for some additional information that you will endeavour to provide the committee, and I'd appreciate if you could do that as soon as practicable. With that, you'll also be sent a copy of the transcript of your evidence to the committee, and again, if you feel you need to make any transcription amendments, feel free to do so. And I declare this part of the public hearing closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.